Hello and welcome to When the Smoke Clears. I am the Recovery Plug. What's going on, everybody? Thank you again for tuning into my video podcast today. I greatly appreciate it. It's another good day, another day sober. It's a little cold outside today, so it's but other than that, the day's good. I'm grateful. I'm grateful that you guys are tuning in, man. And before we get started, you know how I like to always get my video podcast started, always with a moment of silence, followed by the serenity prayer for the addict who still suffers. So if you would, please, a moment of silence. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. All right, well, let's get started. Man, how's everybody doing, man? It's going great. It's another day in the life of sobriety, recovery, positivity, and spirituality, man. I wanted to share today with you guys a little bit of this a little bit of this guy. His name is Rob Dial, and he's got a book called Leveled Up, and it's a little bit of his story in a sense. I'm going to read you I'm going to read you a paragraph or two in one of the books a book that he has called Leveled Up, and then I'm going to elaborate on it and kind of discuss that paragraph, because it really kind of it helped me out in realizing a few things in my journey. So I think that it would be helpful and insightful for you guys, and it's a motivator to perhaps keep going in your spirituality, keep going in your recovery, keep going in the goals that you may have, whatever they may be. It's a little push, a nudge forward into the right direction, if you will. But what I'm going to do is let me grab that book and my glasses, and I'm going to read you a little bit of the book so that we can, talk about it. I'm going to set this down. Hopefully we can still hear me once I set this down. Okay, let's get situated here. Alrighty, the book is called Level Up, and it's by Rob Dial. And the front cover of the book says, "How to Get Focused, Stop Procrastinating, and Upgrade Your Life." This is it right here. Alrighty. And I ran across this guy's story in his book through watching. I'm subscribed to the Jay Shetty podcast, and Jay Shetty's always got a bunch of good people that he has on his show, and very insightful and help you with your daily routines, with your daily lives, with your spirituality, with just being an overall mindful and good human being. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a little bit of this book, and we'll go over it. So here we go. It says, "I'm not a very religious person, but I like to think that when we get to the end of our lives, we will meet that person we could have been had we lived up to our full potential. So when I come face to face with God, or whoever that might be judging me, I want to have checked off every single item on the checklist that is required to be a perfect version of myself." It says, "My goal is to fully realize my potential and to have influenced the world and people around me as much as possible. I want to have been the best possible parent and steward of my money, and to have loved everyone as much as possible. If I ever get to meet the best possible version of myself at the end of my life, I don't want to be disappointed that I didn't become that person. Instead, I want to look at that person and realize that I couldn't have been any more during my time here on earth to live up to that potential. I want to look at that person and feel like I'm looking at my twin. This can be your new goal, and if you aren't sure that you're on the right track, ask yourself one question. is what I'm doing right now getting me closer or taking me further away from my goals? And man, that particular that last part of that paragraph, man, is it's powerful to me and so true. You know what I mean? It is a because I know that in my particular journey, for as long back as I can remember, I've had always have goals that I set for myself and things that I want to do, and some things I procrastinated on, some things I never got to, and some things I did. I finished them. I reached that goal, but in the past few years, being in the world of addiction and in the darkness, and veering off from being engaged in my recovery community, being engaged in my faith-based community, being engaged in my everyday life, being engaged in my life with my family, I found myself withdrawing, isolating, and just being a puppet, if you will, to the addiction. And did I know better? Yes, I did. And could I have stopped earlier? I wish I would have. But to be honest with you, it was like when you're in that dark realm, it's like you in a sense get blinded, and you just it keeps you bound down in a sense, and it keeps your mind in this negative thought process. And unfortunately for me, it lasted a while. You know what I mean? And that from one point in my life, I had about 10 years of sobriety, and when I went back into the addiction and relapse, I stayed reading the relapse and in that dark realm for 5 years. It was a long relapse, and I know that there, you don't realize that you're getting bound down and that your life is getting dictated and moved around through the use of your addiction and through the negative mindset. I mean, because that's the furthest thing that you're thinking about, and you're not sitting there analyzing your life and where it's going and what you need to do, and you're just stuck in this certain path with the blinders on, and you can't see anything else. And I know that when I finally had that, I guess that sense of quote unquote, I don't want to sound cliche-ish, but it is I finally hit my rock bottom. And, and I've hit many rock bottoms, you know what I mean? But this particular rock bottom was just different, you know what I mean? Because I've had rock bottoms where I said, man, just please God, get me out of this. And, I won't do this, I won't do that. And next thing you know, I get over that whole adversity, and 2 weeks later I'm back doing the same thing. You know what I mean? And that happened quite a few times. And but this time it was a little bit different. I just felt something different, felt something more spiritual and more of a I don't know how to explain it. I guess it's more of like an urgency, if you will, that something just overcame me and just said, dude, we need to do the 360 now, right here, right at this particular point in time. Right here's where you asked for it. Don't hesitate, and you got to do it. And I did, man. I can remember vividly being out at that park, in broad daylight, just miserable and being a lookout, you know what I mean, so that somebody could do drugs while I'm making sure nobody's coming. And that particular day was just it for me. I can remember just thinking to myself, and just mentally thinking and talking to myself, silently, what are you doing here? What the heck is are you doing here in this situation? You're better than this. You need to change because it's not getting any better. You know what I mean? Something just finally hit me and finally just came across my mental thought and said, dude, it's enough of the negativeness. It's enough of the negative thinking. We need to set different goals, different mindset. And I did. And, by the grace of God, I was able to get a 360-degree change. Things happened, not the way that I wanted them to happen, but the way they happened, I believe it was just a divine intervention type thing. And it allowed me to move forward in my life into this positivity and spirituality and recovery realm. You know what I mean? And, I started thinking a lot of just like the paragraph that we read in the book, that I don't want to be, later on in my life, when it's when it's my time to go, I don't want to be, that burden. I don't want to have that legacy of, I failed or this is where I wound up. I want to be better than that. I want to be able to have something to be a role model, to help people, to show and love, my neighbor, my family, anybody who needs it. And I just feel that that's the calling. That's why I do the podcast, because if I could share a message through the things that I do in my daily life to show people that, the addiction isn't the end of the world. Being depressed isn't the end of the world. Thinking that you want to commit suicide isn't the end of the world. Being in those bad relationships isn't the end of the world. And, the adversities that you've gone through, because I've been through many, and, if you're dealing, I've went through some childhood traumatic experiences, and I don't let that define me. I'm not letting it define me. And I don't want to live my life in this pity party of why can't I be better? Why is anybody else? Why are they better than me? Why are they succeeding and I'm not? And I had to look internally and know that, okay, what are you doing wrong in your life that is keeping you bound down? Okay, well, number one, you're addicted to drugs. Okay. Number two, you have this addictive personality. You got PTSDs. You got these traumatic experiences that you've gone through. You come from a family background of alcoholics and drug addicts, and your dad passed away at an early age. He died of alcohol and drugs. So you lost your family to the addiction. So it's all of these types of things that I had to dissect and figure out, okay, what do I have to do to better myself? What do I have to do to get past all of this stuff and lead a successful and positive and spiritual life? And being in recovery is exactly that. Is that you're recovering things that you've lost to all those adversities. And when you can recover things back into your life, and you having the free will to know what to choose and what not to choose, and what to attach yourself to and not attach yourself to, because in order to set goals and have this positive mindset, you have to be willing to change your entire composition of yourself. You know what I mean? It's like it's like having this identity change. Because because you want to become this new person. Because if you bring to this new life any part of the person that you were in the addiction, in the depression, in the suicidal thoughts, in the PTSD, if you bring any of that into this new you, then you're bringing yourself a crutch to go back. You're leaving yourself an out. You know what I'm saying? So it is, I thought about that a lot, and I was like, what is it that I want to, where do I want to go with this? And to me, for me, is I wanted to not be homeless anymore. I wanted to not be addicted to drugs anymore. I wanted to have a good relationship with my family. I wanted to have a good job, start making money, and getting back to that type of, lifestyle, and having a recovery community that I can count on, and having a faith-based community that I can count on, and being engaged in all those things, and not just, quote unquote, talking the talk, but actually walking the walk. And that's where it comes in, because we all been there. We've all had these miraculous and outlandish goals. And they're not so outlandish, you know what I mean? You could set goals as high as you want, and they're not going to be outlandish when you're doing actions to get there. You know what I mean? So I had to start little bit by little bit, starting with these small goals that were realistic in my grasp, that I could do, and start conquering little by little each one of those. And for me, it was stopping the addiction. So that meant going to a treatment center and getting my head right and getting my mindset right. So I had to go to a treatment center again. And it wasn't my first one, you know what I mean? So I had to go again to a recovery center, and I spent a little over 70 days there. And it was a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? I had to do that. And then after I finished that, I had to make a choice. Okay, well, I'm done with the treatment center. Now, where do I go from here? Okay, do I go back to where I was living and hang out and go back to the people that I was dealing with, which they all used? If I go back to living where I was at, it's in the use. It's in the addiction, because everybody that I was, associating myself with used, and in one shape, form, or another. And I had to make that conscious decision to say, you know what, I can't do that. I gotta move on to something else. And I did. I chose to go to this sober living facility for veterans, and I did. And that took another 6 months out of my life, but it was a positive thing. It was moving in the right direction. And during my 6 month stay at the sober living facility, I was able to obtain things that I needed, like my ID, my birth certificate, and I was able to keep all my VA appointments, and get into the other VA programs that they had for veterans that were going through, substance abuse treatments, and mental peer support groups, and going through the homeless and housing transitions from homeless to getting a place. And, I had to do all of that stuff. And that meant that I had to, those were goals, you know what I mean? Those were the types of goals that I had to set for myself, and I set them and conquered them, you know what I mean? And I had to do this stuff on a repetitious basis. Every single morning I got up and I cited prayers, I meditated, I had visual pictures of saying, okay, this is where I need to be, and this is where I'm going. And when I do that, then I put the next picture up, and I start reciting these things mentally and out loud in my prayers and my meditation, so that I do it on a repetitive basis. And this is the key thing, is that in order to obtain the goals is something that you got to do on a repetitive basis. That is very important. And this is something that you got to repetitiously do. You know what I mean? I like to use the analogy of Larry Bird, the basketball player. Larry Bird, the basketball player, he he would shoot 500 free throws every single day since he was, I don't know, in high school or whatever he said, up until he was a pro. Every single day he shot 500 free throws or 500 3-pointers, 500 free throws, something like that. It was either the 3-pointers or I think it was 500 free 3-pointers or free throws. But this guy shot 500 baskets every single day. Now, would he have been a legend and this great basketball player had he not? Yeah, I don't think he would have been that great if he didn't do that. But he did this on a repetitious basis because he had a goal, he had a vision in mind of where he wanted to go, and that was to be an NBA player. And he fulfilled it by doing the actual work. You know what I mean? So when you set these goals for yourself and you know that you're going to have to, it's not only being true to yourself spiritually and mentally, but you have to know that you got to do the work. There's got to be action. You know what I mean? So I can remember when I was in the addiction, all of the things that I usually were going through my mind and the things that I thought and talked about were always either things that I was going to do to get money, to get drugs, or things that I was going to do to continue to use, or it just all revolved around this negative vibe. You know what I mean? There was never a time that I was in the addiction saying that, well, I'm gonna focus on getting a job today, or focus on going to school today, or focus on saving relationships with my family today. No, negative. I never did that. You know what I mean? So I always thought negative things, and then when I thought negative things, of course, my actions were negative. I was always involved in some negative sort of either illegal or unhealthy freaking thing that I was doing. And so, now I've been able to change my mentality, change my state of mind into this positive spirituality thinking that is what I do on the daily basis now. And I've been doing it for quite a while. And so that was why I decided to do this podcast. And when I first started this podcast, I had no idea what I was going to do. I just knew that I wanted to do it, and it was a goal that I had. And so I decided to do it one day. And the thing is that I've been doing it ever since. Ever since I had put that thing in my mind and made it a goal for me to do. I was like, I'm going to try to do this podcast. I want to have a successful podcast, and I want to share the message of recovery, addiction, and spirituality, and just talk about all these life struggles and share with the audience, things, adversities, and things that I've done to get past all of those types of things, and hopefully that it helps somebody, because I know that because I heard somebody's story one day of how their life was and how they were able to get out of it. Their story was a story that helped me move forward in my life, and I wanted to also repay and do that. So that's why I do the podcast, is that I'm hoping to change lives, hoping to share the love, just help out my fellow, friends, my fellow human being, my fellow neighbors, just anybody who's in the struggle, and anybody who will listen and who needs to hear an encouraging thing. And, because, there's a way out. There's a way to being a successful person, to being a positive person, to be a person that is lacking spirituality, that is lacking something that you're looking for in your life. A lot of people walk around spiritually hungry. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people are lonely. There's a lot of loneliness. There's a lot of people who are depressed. There's a lot of people who think suicidal thoughts. And I've been there, you know what I mean? I've been there before. And, and I know that if I wouldn't have heard this person's story, I would have probably still been in that, you know, in that realm. And I'm just grateful by the grace of God I was able to be in the room to hear this person's story, and it gave me the motivation to move forward and do positive things and change my life. You know, number one, and so I hope that you know, reading a little bit of that book, you know, I hope that it helps. And you know, let me grab that thing one more time, because I want to read that last part of what we read. And you know, that last part of what we read states, it says, this can be your new goal, and if you aren't sure that you're on the right track, ask yourself one question. Is what I'm doing right now getting me closer to or taking me further away from my goals? And man, when I read that, I was just like thinking, I was like, God, I can remember doing exactly that. You know, that day at the park was like, what am I doing right now? And I thought about it, you know, I was like, man, I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything right at that particular moment in time. What I was going through at that particular time, I wasn't doing anything to better myself. I wasn't doing anything to get myself out of the addiction. I wasn't doing anything to get closer to my higher power, to be more of a spiritual person, to show compassion, enlightenment, mindfulness, love to anybody, including myself. And, you know, so I realized that, you know what? There's this guy, Greg, that would show up at these meetings every Friday at the recovery center that I was at, over at Lifetime Recovery. And that guy, Greg, would always say, you know what? If you do nothing, then guess what? Nothing happens. And man, I you know, that stuck with me, you know what I mean? And I could remember myself at that park that particular day when I was just giving it up and thinking, you know, what am I doing? I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything to help myself. And so yeah, if you do nothing, then guess what? Nothing happens. So just know that all you have to do is do a little bit at a time. Take little chunks out of your negative and dark life and start moving yourself forward into the, you know, positive realm of recovery and spirituality. And you know, you're going to find out if you do that on the repetitious basis every single day, make it a point to do one positive thing, and you keep doing that on the daily basis, then you're going to find out that it's going to start getting easier, and your brain will start programming itself to do these positive things, and it'll be like second nature, you know what I mean? So, you know, I hope that this message today has resonated with somebody, and I really hope that, you know, I hope that it helps. And, yeah, so, you know, at this time, I'd like to encourage you guys to please comment on my channel, give me a thumbs up, give me a like, and please subscribe to my channel and share my channel. And know that when you subscribe and share my channel, that you'll be helping out another veteran like myself. You'll be helping out another person dealing with drug addiction, with alcoholism, with PTSDs, people dealing with childhood traumatic experiences, suicidal thoughts, depression, anger, and being lonely. You'll help out people like that, because I've been all of those things. And you'll be helping out, you know, another veteran like myself. And so I really appreciate you guys listening and tuning in. So I guess until the next time on When the Smoke Clears, I am the Recovery Plug.